I would like to reply to what's been said already and throw in a few extra things of my own. In approximate order, Joshua, I think you're absolutely right. This generation is different. We have different priorities. We recognize we're going to do life a little bit differently than our parents have done. And we're optimistic, and that's great. Sharifa, though, I think we absolutely do need to look to the past. And that is often going to get lost. If this generation majors in current events, we will have dropped the ball because there's a lot of ways in which we're not unique. We face a lot of the same struggles in terms of continuing or choosing not to continue or somehow putting our own stamp on the American Republic. And it's been well noted that refounding a republic is actually quite a bit harder than founding it for the first time. We face that challenge in this generation. And we're going to have to get it right on our first and only try. And to that point, we do need to look to the past, but most of all, we need to look to our morals. And that's where I'm really encouraged to hear from our old fogey down the end, that, that there is a faith element to this, there is a moral element to this, and that it's apparent to most people up here that our generation really does like to start a conversation that begins and ends with morals. And I think that's really the only way forward for us, because this is a time when we're frustrated, we're apathetic, and we're agnostic, and we're ambivalent about so many organized things. We're really not good at isms. We don't like organized politics. We don't like organized religion. We find these things frustrating. We're very scattershot. Many of us will found NGOs. Only half of us will vote in our own local and national elections. That's a challenge, and we need to do some looking in the mirror on that. And a lot of that is moral as well. 50% of Americans are in or near poverty. We need to confront that. As much as we're eager to save Africa, we need to save Anacostia at least as desperately, and it's right in our neighborhood. So yes, we do need to have a moral conversation, and there's reason for optimism, but we also need to be very, very honest with ourselves about what's possible. We are not going to sort out the world, and we're not going to end human suffering. Our generation is not that different. That's a little bit of a dose of cold water, but I think that's necessary. And so I think what's really, really, really critical for this generation is for us to determine who we are. We're very good at saying who we're not. We don't like organized this. We don't like partisan that. And so we have to come up with a higher narrative that appeals across partisan boundaries, across denominational boundaries, to come up with a narrative that says these are the priorities for this generation in this country and in the world, because as we've said, it's a global generation, and we're going to face global challenges. The ones I mentioned in some of my blog posts for this were the environment, education, and the economy, and all three of those things are national crises, local crises, and also global crises. You know, there is no room for the world to go through another industrial revolution the way the West did it. We can't do that. Because then we won't have this conversation because we'll be underwater. And that's really not good. And a lot of this flows from economics and from education, which have been revealed to be very, very high priorities of this generation in the poll. And also from just informally conversing with this group all morning, it's been all about education and all about economics, which I think is great. 3 times more of us care about economics and education than care about social issues, and I think that's the way the politics is going to have to move. And so I'll close with this. I'd like to challenge the faith community to deal with both the legacy of a changing face of America. This is the first generation that's going to see an America that is minority white Protestant. And one of our greatest challenges is going to be telling the country that that's okay, because that's a very scary thing, and you see it clearly in the poll that blacks and Hispanics are much more optimistic about their future, and whites are not. Whites are more likely to believe that we're going to do worse than our parents did, and we're more likely to believe that reverse discrimination against whites is a problem. And convincing us that it's okay and that society is not going to forget about us as we move on is going to be critical, and that's a faith thing as well as a political thing. And finally, we have to do a better job separating our politics from our faith commitments. We can't have a salvific politics, and we can't have political salvation. That is, we can't look to our political leaders to say, this is what I believe about salvation, and therefore you should vote for me, and we also can't look to political leaders to save us, because they can't. That's not the job of politics, and we can't let it be that way.
Thank you.